Cheffe, for years you've been a part of the tattoo scene, not only as an artist, but also as the CEO of Magic Moon Tattoo Supply. What is it that made you start tattooing?
That's a question I get asked a lot. I'm an old dog, so let me take it way back. It was through many circumstances. I started back in the mid-80s, when there were barely any tattoo artists out there. Well, I started making my first money in high school, drawing vinyl covers from famous bands on army bags that the kids in my day used as book bags. Bands like Rosetta Stone, Uriah Heep, people probably don't even know them anymore. Kiss. I was and still am a die-hard Kiss fan. More so because of the rebel status rather than the music. I went to a big high school with thousands of students. So I made a sketchbook that people could pick and choose designs from for their own custom army bags. So it seems like I developed that passion at a young age, but it wasn't till the mid-80s during my time with the German armed forces that I started tattooing. Another cool story. I met this dude at a bar brawl in Cologne and we ended up on the same side of a fight. We both had nothing to do with the fighting. I mean, we did, but we weren't the ones that started the fight. Well, we kind of kept in touch and I eventually started drawing and sketching for him. He showed me some of his techniques, but I have to say most of it was self-taught. What I learned from him was not all that great. That's how it all started.
What was different as a tattoo artist then and now?
Everything. Everything was completely different. There were no customers really. You had to go out and chase them with a lasso. Everything was completely underground. There was no lobby for us whatsoever. Tattoos were an absolute no-go. If you had tattoos, people thought you were a bum or a criminal or something. Some people still think that today, of course. Now about 5% of people still have that thought. Back then, it was over 95%. There was barely any equipment for us on the market. No advice, no consultation. You couldn't order any of this stuff online. Everything was different. Even things like having two tattoo artists in the same city was inconceivable at the time. I mean, I was born and raised in Mönchengladbach, and I left and moved to Erkelenz because one of my buddies had a tattoo shop there. Today there are about 57 shops in Mönchengladbach.
Would you choose the profession of a tattoo artist again if you had the choice?
Back then, with the knowledge I have today, that's a hard question. Yes, of course, I would definitely choose the life of a tattoo artist back in the 80s. Because back then, being a tattooer or being tattooed had a very different meaning than it does today. Nowadays, it's just too mainstream. My motivations and the reason why I started back then are absent today. The underground has turned into mainstream commercial business. I can only answer that question as the 53-year-old man that I am, knowing what tattooing used to be. If I was 18 today, that'd be a whole different story. But I think I would still lack the motivation and enthusiasm that came with the reason I started back in the day.
What are your thoughts on the development of the tattoo scene in regards of tattooing?
Do you mean up until now or from this point in time on?
I mean the development from when you started until now.
Well, a noticeable development started in the 90s. The first few flashes were available for purchase and tattoo conventions started popping up everywhere. The first one in Germany was in '91 in Berlin in a nightclub called Trash. After that, the scene really started picking up. But honestly, the last 10 years, the industry has been growing way too fast and I don't really like it. I mean, as a supplier, yes. It's great. We're always up to date and see and do new things almost every day. But personally, I think it's growing a little too fast. In the computer industry, for example, you buy a computer today and 6 months from now, it's old. I kind of feel like the tattoo industry is heading in that direction. You buy the latest tattoo machines with a bunch of fancy features and it's the best thing yet. And a year later, that same machine is old. You know? I don't really like it that much.
Is there any advice you would like to give the young tattoo artists?
Yes. Please don't think you're a rock star just because you successfully hammered 5 tattoos into somebody's skin. It's not that hard to do with the know-how and equipment available today. Stay down to earth. Stay humble. There's no need to run around with a cigar and a Rolex after your first 5 tattoos. That kind of stuff annoys me. I'm not saying don't tattoo, I'm just saying be humble. Us old dogs out there may not be tattooing the craziest and newest styles, but we still stay down to earth. It's the customers, no matter if young or old. Without our customers, we all wouldn't be shit. We are service providers, and many of us need to realize that. Believe me, we are very, very far away from this rock star image, and in my opinion, that mentality will only hurt the tattoo scene in the long run.
Okay, Cheffe, thank you very much for this interesting insight.
Anytime.